You know, when you stand in a gallery and look at a truly breathtaking piece of abstract art, there's this specific moment where your brain just tries to process a visual contradiction.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very visceral reaction.
Right. Like you are standing there looking at a flat, two-dimensional piece of canvas. You mathematically know it is completely flat.
Yeah.
But the colors seem to literally hum. I mean, they vibrate. The shapes feel like they have this immense physical weight. And it almost looks like there's a hidden light bulb plugged into the wall somewhere behind the paint.
That illusion of internal illumination, well, it's honestly one of the most difficult effects to achieve in painting.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It forces you to reconcile the physical reality of the fabric with the optical reality that's actually hitting your retina. It is not just some happy accident of, picking good colors. It is highly engineered optical physics.
And that structural engineering is exactly the puzzle we are going to solve for you today in this deep dive.
I'm very excited for this one.
Same. We are asking, how do you take a completely blank, flat, 50 by 60 canvas and create a piece that literally seems to pulse with light? We are exploring a step-by-step masterclass by Rodolfo Im, unpacking the exact meticulous methodology this maestro uses.
And honestly, analyzing this process, it totally strips away the myth that abstract art is just throwing paint at a surface and some burst of raw emotion.
Right, the whole I could do that mentality.
Exactly. It's incredibly precise. We are looking at the hidden architecture of the medium itself.
So true.
We're going to reveal how El Gran Artista uses these profound contrasts, light and dark, transparency and opacity, to build what is essentially a self-sustaining visual ecosystem. You have to really understand how light interacts with acrylic polymers.
So let's start at the very foundation, like the absolute beginning, a blank 50 by 60 canvas.
The intimidating blank canvas.
Yeah, exactly. No, the common situation here, especially if you're a beginner or just working fast, is to apply a quick, really thick layer of primer or gesso.
Yeah, standard practice, just slap it on.
Just to seal the fabric weave so the paint doesn't soak through, and then you just jump straight into the final composition.
Which is actually a massive mistake if you want luminosity.
Really? Why?
Because rushing that foundation compromises the entire optical structure later on. If you apply a thick, uneven coat of primer, or if you just start blocking out your shapes right away on a hastily prepped canvas, you kill the glow before you even begin.
Wow, okay.
Think about the physical texture of standard brushstrokes. They create these microscopic ridges.
Oh, right, the brush line.
Exactly. And every single one of those tiny ridges casts a microscopic shadow. When you multiply that by thousands across the whole canvas, it absorbs ambient room light. It just totally flattens the image.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So knowing that, the method used by Grupo Raiim is fascinating, even though it takes extreme patience.
It really does.
They lay down 2 full, distinct layers of titanium white. But, and this is the kicker, it's not painted on with a standard brush. It's applied with a sponge.
Right. The application technique is paramount here. The maestro uses what is essentially a dry sponge technique.
A dry sponge, but paint is wet.
Well, almost all of the undiluted titanium white is discharged onto the palette first. They work the pigment deeply into the pores of the sponge.
Oh, I see.
And they only introduce like a single drop of water if the paint absolutely refuses to drag across the surface.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But it allows for an incredibly tight, thin layer of paint to be literally pressed down into the weave of the canvas. You dry it completely, and then you do the exact same thing for a second coat.
Let's look at the mechanics of why titanium white is the holy grail here. Physically, doing this forces the surface to become mathematically flat, like ironed out.
Zero relief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No brush strokes, no bumps.
Yeah.
I like to think of it like architecture. It's like pouring a reinforced concrete foundation for a skyscraper.
That's a great analogy.
You can't build a flawless, gleaming glass tower on a lumpy plot of dirt, right?
Yeah.
Every flaw at the bottom just telegraphs all the way to the top.
Right, and the optical function of that flat layer is even more vital. Titanium white has this incredibly high refractive index. It is highly reflective.
It bounces light.
Yes. By creating a flawless sheet of it with that sponge, the artist is basically installing a mirror at the very back of the painting. Everything on top is going to interact with the room light that penetrates the paint, hits that white base, and just bounces right back out to you.
Which brings us to the first major compositional shape. We have our perfect mirror. Now, we need to build the main subject, which is this glowing sphere.
Right.
Again, looking as standard beginner practice. If I want a bright orange red on my palette, grab a brush and paint a solid circle on the canvas.
And what happens when you do that?
It looks totally flat.
Exactly.
Mm.
Applying opaque pigment like that results in a heavy, lifeless shape. It sits on top of the canvas, absorbing light rather than transmitting it. No internal vibration at all.
So the method used by Rodolfo Im completely bypasses that. First, the maestro draws a precise circle with a pencil. Then, the outside of that circle is perfectly masked off with tape.
The masking is crucial.
Yeah, and they use a scalpel to cut a flawless, razor-sharp edge around the perimeter. It shields the white background and lets them work super fast inside the circle.
And speed and temperature control are everything here.
Right, because of the acrylics.
Yeah, acrylic paints dry through the evaporation of water. Once the water leaves, the polymer binder cures into a clear, solid matrix, locking the pigment in place. El Gran Artista actually accelerates this with a hairdryer.
A hairdryer, I love that.
It gives absolute control over the drying times of the individual layers.
Because inside this perfectly masked circle, they don't do a single opaque layer. The maestro uses a sponge to apply a highly translucent layer of pure yellow.
Just yellow.
Just yellow, spread super thin, and then immediately dried with the hairdryer. Then, once that is locked in, a translucent layer of orange goes over the entire yellow circle.
And they dry that too.
Yep, dried again. And finally, a vibrant, translucent red is applied, but only on the bottom half of the sphere.
What we are witnessing here is the literal physical manipulation of light waves.
It's science.
It is. These specific layers have physical body, but the pigment density is low enough to be translucent. When you stand in front of this, the light from the room travels through the red layer, continues through the orange, passes through the yellow, and strikes that flawless titanium white mirror.
Oh.
Exactly. The light reflects off the white, travels back through those three colored layers, picks up the wavelength data of the pigments, and hits your retina.
I want to focus on the chemistry of that for a second, because if I hear layering wet media, I immediately panic about making a muddy brown mess.
Right, the dreaded mud.
If you mix yellow, orange, and red together on a palette with a knife, you're doing subtractive color mixing. The pigments mash together, they absorb more light, and the color just drops in saturation. It gets dull.
But that is the crucial distinction between physical mixing on a palette and optical mixing on a canvas. Yellow, orange, and red are analogous colors. They sit right next to each other on the color wheel.
Sister colors.
Yes, and because Grupo Raiim forces every single layer to cure completely with the hairdryer before adding the next one, the pigments never physically touch, they never blend, they remain suspended in their own distinct layers of clear acrylic.
So the mixing happens entirely in your eye.
Exactly. Your brain combines the wavelengths in real time.
That creates that stunning, luminous, orange-red sphere that practically glows. The yellow amplifies the orange pushes the red into this, like, hyper-vibrancy.
An optical vibration that physical mixing just cannot achieve.
It harnesses the physics of light perfectly. And here's the problem at this stage, it's just a glowing flat circle. It doesn't have any physical presence.
It needs volume.
Right. We need to ground the object and make it feel three-dimensional. Now, the common mistake here is grabbing a brush with black paint and tracing a harsh dark line around the bottom edge. Or, like, smudging dark paint right into the wet red to make a shadow.
Which is a disaster for this kind of piece.
It really is.
Introducing opaque black or gray directly into a luminous area instantly collapses the optical vibration. Black pigment absorbs all light. If you mix it into those translucent layers, you block the light from reaching the white mirror. The shape just flattens out again.
So to fix this, Rodolfo Im relies on an entirely different technique. The maestro applies a specific earth tone burnt umber to the lower crescent of the red section.
Burnt umber is perfect for this.
But the real magic is how they manipulate it before it cures. El Gran Artista takes a wet rag and actively dabs and presses into the fresh burnt umber.
Oh, the wet rag technique.
Yeah. The water acts as a temporary solvent, lifting some of the pigment away. It's paint subtraction.
Yeah. I love looking at it as a sculptural approach. Instead of adding material to build a shadow, the artist is removing material to reveal the glow underneath.
Yes.
The random organic texture of the rag creates this incredible mottled, veined gradient. It avoids that fake airbrush look, anchoring the sphere with real organic weight.
And it is only after that subtracted, textured umber is bone dry that the maestro introduces pure black.
Just a tiny bit.
A microscopic touch. Strictly to the absolute lowest millimeter of the sphere's edge. It doesn't cover the gradient, it just gives it a massive anchor point.
And when you peel that tape away...
Oh man, the visual impact. You have this massive, heavy 3D sphere of fiery orange, and it is popping completely off this immaculate flat white void.
The extreme contrast between the organic volume of the sphere and the clinical flatness of the white background that establishes the spatial reality of the piece.
Okay, so the viewer's eye is immediately drawn to the sphere, but the next requirement is to introduce movement and depth around it.
Right, you need a space for the sphere to exist in.
Which brings us to the geometric grid. The maestro uses tape to map out these long rectangular bands crossing behind and in front of the sphere.
Now, you might think, okay, the goal is vibrancy, so I should paint these rectangles using that same translucent luminous technique.
That would be the logical assumption.
But that would completely destroy the visual hierarchy.
Why is that?
Because if every single element on the canvas is competing at maximum luminosity, the viewer's eye gets exhausted. If the rectangles are just as vibrant as the sphere, they flatten the image right back into a 2D pattern. The illusion of depth just collapses.
So the methodology of Grupo Raiim subverts its own rule here. For these background and foreground rectangles, El Gran Artista maps off the borders and paints a solid, totally opaque black base layer.
Pitch black.
Pitch black, and dries it completely. Then, a layer of translucent cadmium red is sponged directly over that black base.
This step is a brilliant demonstration of light absorption.
It totally is.
When you apply translucent layers over a dark foundation instead of a white one, the light behavior changes entirely. The ambient light hits the translucent red, passes through, strikes the black base, and is just consumed. Zero reflection.
The cadmium red becomes completely muted. It keeps its color identity, but it loses that energetic vibration. It feels heavy and quiet.
Exactly.
I always equate this to mixing audio tracks. Like, if you have a massive arrangement and you want the lead vocal, our bright sphere, to sound incredibly loud and close to the listener, you don't turn all the backing instruments up to maximum volume.
No, that's just noise.
Right, it's just a wall of noise. To make the lead vocal punch through, you actually pull the faders down on the background instruments. You intentionally mute them.
That audio analogy maps perfectly onto visual depth of field. By applying cadmium red over a light-absorbing black base, Rodolfo Im is turning down the volume of the rectangles.
Muting them.
Yes. Warm, bright colors appear to advance towards you, while cool, muted, or dark colors seem to recede into the distance. Muting those red bands pushes them deep into the background, creating a massive atmospheric perspective. A flat canvas suddenly has like 3 feet of physical depth.
The level of control is wild.
Yeah.
We have the white void in the deep background, the muted red bands sliding through the midground, and the hyperluminous sphere dominating the front.
But the grid continues to evolve.
It does. More rectangles get caped off. One band passing vertically behind the sphere is painted pure black. Another one crossing horizontally right over the front is also pure black and dried.
Now, at this stage, the piece relies heavily on smooth, flat surfaces. Even the sphere's shadow is quite thin.
Right.
So to prevent it from feeling too sterile, El Gran Artista introduces a radical shift in tactile texture. They use a metal spatula and forcefully drag heavy, high-viscosity gold paint directly over that horizontal black rectangle.
The contrast there is severe. The gold paint physically sits up off the canvas. It catches the light on its ridges, glittering against that absolute void of the black base.
It really pops.
And then in the bottom right corner, another rectangle is taped off and painted with a mottled black sponge application. It leaves these microscopic flecks of the white canvas showing through.
Yes.
That is dried and then covered in fine, delicate red glazes. It creates this rich, complex maroon. It's so deep you feel like you could reach your hand straight through the canvas.
The maestro is orchestrating a whole symphony of tactile experiences here. Your eye travels across the clinical white, sweeps over the smooth vibration of the sphere, drops into the matte black voids, catches on the heavy metallic gold ridges, and rests in those transparent red glazes. It is a mathematically ordered ecosystem.
And that brings us to the conceptual turning point.
A climax.
Yes, we have this perfectly ordered geometry, scalpel-cut edges, calculated layers. If the painting stopped here, it would be a masterful study in geometric optics.
But strict geometry can feel, well, entirely static. It lacks kinetic energy. It needs disruption to really come alive.
And that disruption is amazing. The maestro takes a piping bag, like literally the tool a pastry chef uses for icing, and fills it with dense, heavy gold acrylic paint.
And with this sudden, aggressive motion, Grupo Raiim forcefully squeezes thick, three-dimensional organic drips of gold diagonally across the entire canvas.
Just slashes it right across the pristine white void, over the muted rectangles, and physically on top of the vibrating sphere.
It completely shatters the rigidity of the grid.
It introduces this wild, chaotic energy that completely disrupts all the calculated physics we just analyzed.
While it looks wildly spontaneous, analyzing the trajectory reveals it's a masterstroke of planning. The diagonal path introduces organic movement into a static space. The heavy, uncontrolled texture of the squeezed gold aggressively clashes with the delicate, minimalist order underneath it.
It's the ultimate expression of duality. Extreme tensions. Stark white versus hyper-vibrant shapes. Translucent glazes fighting heavy spatula textures. Obsessive order suddenly violated by the chaotic dripping of liquid metal.
And critically, neither functions without the other. The chaos of that final golden drip only has impact because the geometric order beneath it is so flawless.
Right. If the background was already messy, the drip would just get lost in the noise.
Exactly. Conversely, if it stayed strictly geometric, it would lack emotional resonance. The brilliance of Rodolfo Im lies in engineering the exact environment necessary to make that single gesture of chaos feel profound.
It fundamentally changes how you perceive abstract art. It's an exercise in physics, optics, and extreme patience. You can't just throw paint to get this effect. You have to build the mirror, calculate the light transmission.
You are building an optical machine, and what's truly fascinating, something we didn't even touch on technically, is how this machine interacts with you, the viewer, in a 3D space.
Oh, totally.
We are so used to viewing art on backlit digital screens, but a screen emits uniform light. It completely flattens the optics we just discussed.
That is such an incredible point. A photo on your phone shows the shapes, but it cannot replicate the mechanics of the light.
Opposite of a screen, this physical canvas requires your physical presence. As you walk past this 50 by 60 artwork in a room, the angle of the ambient light changes.
Yes.
The light penetrating the layers, bouncing off the mirror, shifting through the polymers, it changes with every step you take. The heavy gold ridges cast real microshadows. The painting literally changes its vibration based on where you stand. It's a dynamic relationship between the object, the environment, and the human eye.
It cannot be digitized.
No, it can't.
It is a reminder that some experiences demand to be witnessed in the physical world. The canvas isn't just reflecting an image, it is actively processing the light of the room you are standing in.
It really is.
So next time you find yourself in front of a masterwork of abstract painting, take a step to the left, then a step to the right, and just watch how the artist's hidden architecture reveals itself.